Discuss the corruption around World Cup stadiums back in 2010. ENCA's Thulasizwe Simelane is at Mbombela Stadium in Nelspruit. That's one of the stadiums embroiled in that controversy. Thulas, a very good morning to you. And before we actually talk about the specifics of Mbombela, and God knows it was dramatic and, you know, stuff that movies are made of, let's go back to this scandal, not just about Mbombela, but about the building of stadiums that saw several construction companies in hot water for this. Just take us back to exactly what happened, what was that scandal?
You're absolutely right, Uveka. The architectural masterpiece that is the Mbombela Stadium that you see over my shoulder there, it's nestled in this beautiful valley of Matsafeni, just outside Mbombela. And, you know, when you look at it now, it really belies the kind of shenanigans that took place in the process of building this particular stadium. And it was really a double whammy in this particular case, because not only was it a case of collusion and price fixing and sort of trying to fix the tenders by 7 construction companies that were involved in the building of World Cup stadia, but also you had the subsequent corruption that took place as well, that allegedly took place involving you know, prominent people, including, of course, the Kaizer Chiefs manager, Bobby Motaung. That case has since come to a point where, you know, the prosecution has said basically they're not going to be able to prosecute that particular case. So it's something that sort of needs one to entangle, to disentangled rather, because it is rather complex. So if you're talking about the case that involves the construction companies, basically the allegation being they met around 2006 and basically between them decided who was going to get which tender and how they're going to sort of arrange such that the preferred bid would be the one that would actually get the work, and between them agreed that they would have a profit margin of some 17%. We've seen them being slapped with heavy fines of about 1.5 billion rand in terms of the competition commission processes, but also later on in an agreement that they reached with government that they would pay about 1.5 billion rand into various projects and causes and would sell stakes in their companies as punishment. But it didn't really come as easy as we describe it now. They made the first payment of 115 million rand last year. Some of them were rather not so keen to pay, you know, to be found in that way, to have to pay those fines. But in the end, there was that agreement with 7 construction companies. And you're talking here, Uveka, about companies that carry out work for government all the time. WBHO, Stefanutis Stocks, you're talking about Murray and Roberts, and ironically, even a company that's linked to, you know, to COSATU, who are themselves champions against corruption. Robex were also mentioned in the Aveng. All those companies are companies that were mentioned in the scandal and have had to cough up. But of course, the other bit of the story is a completely different story that had to do with the corruption case that I mentioned a bit earlier on.
Yeah, well, let's look at the one specifically about Mbombela, Thulas. And like you say, it's no longer going to court. There aren't any, nobody's gone to jail because of this. I mean, we saw, like you say, allegations of fraud. We saw an assassination of the former City of Mbombela Speaker, Jimmy Mohlala. I mean, he was shot in 2009, apparently while he was blowing the whistle on corruption in these stadium tenders. So, I mean, basically, it's all just gone away quite quietly now.
Yeah, absolutely. And no one has been caught or rather prosecuted successfully for the murder of Jimmy Mohlala. And I mean, I guess the case of Jimmy Mohlala in Mpumalanga highlights the pitfalls and perils of blowing the whistle against corruption. This is the province where Bomba Ntshangase was killed in Bethal for doing exactly that, blowing the whistle on corruption. This is the province where Thandi Mtsweni, the deputy deputy mayor of Mbeki municipality was killed in 2007 for blowing the whistle on corruption. There are pitfalls in this particular province for people who come forward. When you talk about the case that did go to court, it's separate from the construction cartels issue. It is a case really that alleged corruption to the tune of some 1.2 billion rand, fraud and corruption. And among the people that were implicated was Kaizer Chiefs club manager Bobby Motaung and his Uveka Emerging Equity partners there, about 5 other people that were accused of that particular in that particular case. The allegations ranged from using a fake tax certificate in their process of submitting their bid. They also included the allegation of forging a council letter basically to obtain an overdraft with a bank for that particular project. This was for the design of the stadium that you see behind me. It was for the bid to design the stadium. After years of really the case toing and froing and confusion over whether it would be transferred from the regional court here in Mbombela to the High Court, eventually it came to a point where it seems the National Prosecuting Authority issued what they call a null prosequi, which basically says they are unable to prosecute this case. And what the holdup is really, it's one of those cases that are, immersed in intrigue, Uveka, because no one really knows what happened, because at some point the indication was that the investigations had advanced to a point where the prosecution would have been able to proceed with the prosecution, but it seems in the end the decision being taken that they were not going to be able to prosecute, and that was the end of the matter.
We'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much, ENCA's Thulasizwe Simelane at Mbombela Stadium there in Nelspruit for us as we kick off this focus on private sector corruption.